Let me ask you something we rarely pause to consider. When was the last time you truly sat with yourself in silence? Not to plan the day, not to overthink, but to listen, not to the noise outside, but to the voice within? Because there is one, and it has been speaking to you since you were a child. It's that quiet nudge when you fall but feel compelled to rise again. It's the whisper that says, try one more time, even when the world tells you to give up. That is the power within. You see, we live in a world that constantly teaches us to look outward for strength. We're taught to draw confidence from compliments, to measure worth in likes, achievements, and applause. And yet, the most remarkable people I have met, the ones who rise from ashes, who bend without breaking, they don't get their strength from outside validation. They've tapped into something far more powerful, the quiet, unwavering reservoir of strength that already lives inside them. Inner strength isn't something mythical. It's not a gift given only to the chosen few. It's a human truth, a birthright. But here's the irony. While it lives within all of us, most of us spend our lives disconnected from it. Why? Because we underestimate it. We confuse noise for power. We think strength is loud, aggressive, unshakable. But real strength is often silent. It's the courage to wake up after failure. It's the grace to forgive. It's the decision to keep walking even when the path is invisible. Psychologically, this strength is resilience, the mental and emotional flexibility to bend without breaking. But philosophically, it is self-awareness. It's the knowing that no external circumstance, no matter how painful, has the authority to define who you are unless you hand it over. The Stoics said it best: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. We forget that, especially in moments of chaos. When life throws its storms, we look outside for shelter, for someone to rescue us, for some miracle to arrive. But I believe life does something extraordinary in these moments. It doesn't come to destroy us. It comes to introduce us to ourselves, to show us not who we appear to be when things are easy, but who we truly are when things fall apart. That's the real test, not success, not applause, but struggle, because struggle strips away illusion. It reveals the raw, unedited version of you. And sometimes that version is someone you haven't met yet, someone stronger, wiser, more grounded than you imagined. But you only meet that version through discomfort, through pain, through uncertainty. And this is the paradox. The very moments you think will break you are the moments shaping the most powerful parts of you. I've seen it in the eyes of people who've lost everything: health, family, mobility, and yet carry more light than those who have it all. Now, why? Because they've learned to lean inward, to stop asking why me, and instead ask what now. They've found meaning in the mess. They've learned to respond instead of react. That is the kind of strength that cannot be taken away because it's not borrowed. It's earned, built, and lived. Recognizing your inner strength begins with a shift in belief. You must stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as a company creator of it. You are not powerless, you are not broken, you are simply being shaped. But shaping is not comfortable. Just like fire strengthens steel, adversity forges the soul, and you must allow yourself to be forged. Not because life is cruel, but because life knows what you are capable of, even when you don't. And I know some of you listening might say, it's easy to speak of strength when you're not in pain. But I'm not here to minimize your suffering. I'm here to remind you that even in your pain, there is power, that your story is still being written, that just because the page you're on is dark doesn't mean the whole book is. And the pen, whether you realize it or not, has always been in your hand. So the next time life shakes your ground, I hope you remember this. Strength is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of spirit despite the struggle. And that spirit, that voice, that fire, that quiet, unbreakable part of you, it's already there. Okay? You just have to remember how to listen to it. Now, because the truth is simple, everything you need is already within you. Let me begin with a simple but often ignored truth. The way you see the world is not the world itself, it's your mind's reflection of it. And that changes everything. It means the thoughts you choose, the beliefs you carry, the lens through which you interpret your circumstances. These are not passive things. They are tools or weapons depending on how you use them. I say this not to sound poetic, but to emphasize how much influence your mindset has over your life. We live most of our days assuming reality is something out there, that life happens to us and we are just trying to keep up. But the more you begin to observe yourself, truly observe your thoughts, the more you realize your mind is the first battlefield. And the first victory you must win is the one within. Mindset is not about repeating empty affirmations or pretending everything is fine. That's denial, not growth. A powerful mindset isn't blind optimism. It is a conscious commitment to see every moment, even the hard ones, as me. You begin to ask yourself better questions, not why is this happening to me, but what is this trying to teach me? Not what did I lose, but what did I learn? This shift is everything. It's the difference between a breakdown and a breakthrough. Psychologically, this is known as cognitive framing. The way we interpret events directly affects how we feel and what we do next. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change." He survived unimaginable horror not by changing what was around him, but by fiercely protecting the meaning he gave to it. That is the power of mindset. Let me be honest, we are all programmed from childhood, from culture, from pain. We inherit stories about who we are, what's possible, what we're worth. And most of us never stop to question those stories. We just live inside them. But here's what I believe with every part of my being. You have the right to reprogram your mind. You have the right to update your beliefs the way we update our phones, because outdated thoughts can't run your life at full potential. And yes, it takes work, real work. Changing your mindset is not as easy as flipping a switch. It's more like retraining a muscle through repetition, intention, and patience. It means catching your thoughts when they spiral into negativity and gently asking, is this thought helping me or hurting me? It means refusing to be defined by past wounds and deciding that your history is not your destiny. It means choosing again and again to lean into growth instead of fear. I've seen people rise from trauma, poverty, heartbreak, and loss, not because their problems disappeared, but because their mindset evolved. They stopped identifying with what happened to them and started connecting with what still lives inside them. That inner compass, that deeper purpose. They realized that while they couldn't control everything that happened around them, they could always control how they responded. And I know it's easy to sit here and talk about mindset when life is stable. But what about when life collapses? What about when everything you planned falls apart? That's when mindset matters most. Because when you've lost control of the situation, your mind becomes either your shelter or your prison. And in that moment, the story you tell yourself will either save you or bury you. So ask yourself, what story are you living in right now? Are you the victim waiting to be rescued, or the author rewriting the narrative? Are you focused on limitations or possibilities? Every belief you carry shapes your perception, and every perception becomes a choice. So, if you truly want to transform your life, don't start with your goals, start with your thoughts. Start with your mindset, because no lasting change ever happens on the outside without first happening on the inside. I'm not saying life becomes easy when your mindset is strong. I'm saying you become stronger than whatever life throws at you. You become adaptable, resilient, anchored, and that stability comes from within, not from the absence of storms, but from the clarity of thought you've built over time. So, as you move forward, I leave you with this thought. Your mind is the lens through which you experience every joy and every sorrow. Clean the lens, and you change the world you see. There comes a moment, and it happens differently for everyone, when you realize that waiting is no longer an option. Waiting for someone to fix it, waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for the perfect opportunity, the right person, or a better past. And in that moment, you see clearly what many never dare to face. You are responsible for your life. It's not an easy truth. In fact, it's uncomfortable because responsibility isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with weight. It asks you to stop pointing fingers and start asking questions. It asks you to own not only your dreams, but your decisions, your habits, your reactions. And the most powerful moment in anyone's journey is not when they accomplish something great. It's when they stop blaming and start building. This is not about guilt, and it's certainly not about ignoring injustice. Responsibility doesn't mean you caused every wound, it means you choose how to carry it. It means that even if someone else left you in darkness, it is still you who must find the switch. That power, the ability to respond rather than react, is what psychologists call personal agency. And without it, you live your life as a passenger. With it, you take the wheel. But let's be honest, responsibility is often misunderstood. People hear the word and think it means doing everything alone, that you must carry the world on your shoulders. That's not what I mean. Taking responsibility doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means refusing to surrender your future to the stories of your past. It's the decision to move from reaction to creation, from being defined by life to becoming the definer of it. You'd be surprised how often we avoid this step. We stay in toxic environments because we're afraid of the unknown. We stay stuck in patterns because it's easier to be a victim of our habits than the author of our change. But the truth is, as long as your happiness depends on someone else changing, you're handing over your power. And that's not freedom, that's self-abandonment. Taking responsibility is radical because it asks you to stop waiting to be rescued and instead become the one who rises. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to look for them. Not because you're never afraid, but because you choose courage anyway. That's what makes the difference. That's what transforms the story. And this is where philosophy and psychology meet. Both teach us that human beings are not just the product of their circumstances, but of their choices. As Jean-Paul Sartre once said, we are our choices. And Viktor Frankl reminded us, even in the face of unimaginable suffering, that between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. And in that choice lies our growth and our freedom. But to access that space, you have to slow down. You have to pause and ask, what am I choosing today? What thought? What action? What story? Because life doesn't change when the world changes. It changes when you do. When you stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to become stronger, when you stop waiting for clarity and start walking with uncertainty anyway. Some people spend their entire lives avoiding this moment, They blame their parents, their past, the system. And yes, sometimes those things are real barriers, but no one else can walk your path for you. No one else can build the bridge. At some point, you have to decide, do I want to be right about how hard life has been, or do I want to rise above it? This shift isn't instant, it's a practice. Some days you'll feel strong and certain, other days you'll feel lost and overwhelmed. But responsibility isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about showing up even when it's hard. It's about owning your role in your own life story. Because no matter where you began, you have the power to choose how it continues. And here's what I've learned: the people who inspire us most are not those who had it easy. They are the ones who refused to give up their pen, who rewrote their narrative page by page, even when the ink was smeared with pain. They didn't wait for someone to save them. They chose to save themselves, not out of ego, but out of deep respect for life. So I ask you today, with all sincerity, what are you waiting for? Your future is not waiting for permission. It is waiting for part. It's waiting for you to decide not just who you've been, but who you're willing to become. Because at the end of the day, the most empowering truth is also the most demanding. Your life is yours. We often talk about changing the world as if it's some grand, distant goal, something reserved for people with power, platforms, or extraordinary privilege. But what if I told you that your greatest influence begins the moment you choose to become the most honest version of yourself? Not the perfect version, not the socially acceptable version, not the version shaped by fear or comparison, but the version that lives beneath all that, the one aligned with your values, your courage, your truth. That's the version the world is waiting for. Because when you live in alignment, something shifts not only in you but around you. Here's the thing: people don't follow perfection, they follow authenticity. They follow someone who dares to live with integrity, even when it's hard. Someone who shows up whole with their scars, their wisdom, their laughter, and their doubts, and still chooses to walk forward with grace. That's what moves people. That's what inspires. You may not realize it, but right now, someone is watching how you handle life. Not because you ask them to, but because we are wired to seek mirrors of possibility. We learn not from instruction, but from example. That means every time you rise after falling, someone else finds the courage to do the same. Every time you speak with kindness in a world addicted to cynicism, someone else chooses compassion over cruelty. Every time you chase your purpose, not for applause but for peace, someone else is reminded that it's possible. This is where psychology meets philosophy again. Social learning theory tells us that we don't just learn through what people say, we learn through how they live. And deeper than that, we are all connected by a shared desire to be seen, to belong, to believe that our lives matter. So when you become your best self, you're not just fulfilling your own potential, you're extending a silent invitation to others. You can do this too. But becoming your best self is not a destination, it's a commitment. It's a willingness to keep evolving, to keep questioning, to keep showing up, even when it's messy. It's knowing that there is no final version of you, only deeper and more honest expressions of who you've always been. That journey, though, requires courage because the world will constantly try to shape you into something more comfortable, more predictable, and you have to decide again and again whether you will fit in or stand out, whether you will shrink to make others feel safe or expand to remind them that they can grow too. And here's something I've learned: your light doesn't dim others, it shows them what's possible. Playing small doesn't serve anyone. Hiding your gifts out of fear or humility doesn't protect others. It robs them of the inspiration that only you can offer. When you fully become who you are meant to be, you don't create envy, you create hope. That hope matters. In a world overwhelmed by noise, performance, and pressure, we need people who are grounded in purpose. People who live from the inside out, not chasing external validation, but radiating internal clarity. And this clarity, this alignment, creates a different kind of influence. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention. It commands respect, not through power, but through presence. Becoming your best self isn't about status, it's about service. The service of showing what's possible, the service of breaking cycles, of healing what you didn't ask to carry, so the next person doesn't have to, of standing tall not to impress, but to empower. And maybe, just maybe, that's the deepest form of leadership, to live so fully, so authentically, so courageously that others feel safe enough to do the same. So I'll leave you with this. You don't have to be famous to be impactful. You just have to be real. And when you commit to becoming the best version of yourself, the world around you starts to rise with you. That is the power within.